It's white. It's tiny. And you probably don't give it a second thought when you shake it over your food. But 1,000 years ago, you might have kept it under lock and key. Salt, today, a common kitchen staple. But back then, it was the bedrock of empires, the spark behind revolutions, and the reason why entire cities exist today. This is the untold story of how salt became one of the most powerful substances in human history, and why, at one time, it was literally worth its weight in gold. Welcome to Legendary Feasts, where we dive into the rich, surprising history of food and how it's shaped the world we live in today. If you've ever wondered how a simple ingredient could influence wars, trade routes, or global revolutions, stick around. Because long before we traded stocks, oil, or cryptocurrency, salt was the true currency of power. It preserved life, fueled economies, and left its mark on everything from ancient tombs to modern revolts. In this episode, we journey across continents and centuries to explore salt's rise from humble mineral to historical heavyweight. Let's start with something fundamental: survival. Before refrigeration existed, salt was the secret to making food last. With it, people could preserve meat, fish, even dairy for weeks, sometimes months. That wasn't just convenient. It was life-saving. In ancient Egypt, salt did more than just preserve dinner, it preserved the dead. Salt was essential in the mummification process. It dried and purified the body, aligning perfectly with the Egyptian ideals of eternity and divine preservation. But salt wasn't just spiritual, it was economic. Egyptians used it in trade, exchanging salted fish and meats along the Nile and beyond. Salt made food portable, trade possible, and empires sustainable. Now, march forward in time to ancient Rome. Ever heard the phrase, "worth your salt"? That comes from Roman soldiers, who were sometimes paid in salt. Or at least given money specifically to buy it. The word, salary. It comes from the Latin word salarium. That's how central salt was. It wasn't a side condiment, it was part of the military strategy. Armies on campaign needed preserved food. Without salt, rations spoiled, morale dropped, and battles could be lost before they even began. In Rome, salt wasn't just seasoning, it was structure. It held the empire together. Let's head south, deep into the deserts of West Africa. Here, salt wasn't just equal to gold, it was sometimes more valuable. In regions like Mali and Ghana, gold was abundant, but salt, that was scarce. Entire caravans of camels, sometimes thousands strong, would cross the Sahara to bring blocks of salt from the Tagaza mines to trading cities like Timbuktu. The journey was treacherous. Blistering heat, violent sandstorms, bandits. But the reward was immense. Salt fetched gold, gram for gram. It was West Africa's white gold, and it fueled some of the richest trade networks the world has ever seen. Now let's journey east, to ancient China, where salt was more than valuable, it was governmental. As early as 300 BC, the Chinese state recognized salt's power and established government-controlled monopolies. These weren't minor operations. The revenue from salt taxes, known as the salt gabelle, was so massive, it helped finance projects like the Great Wall of China. Controlling salt meant controlling wealth. And wealth meant stability. In Chinese medicine and philosophy, salt symbolized balance, between yin and yang, between nourishment and preservation. Salt was a mineral, yes, but it was also a philosophy, an economic engine, and a pillar of governance. In medieval Europe, salt had a status symbol all its own. It was so precious that nobles kept it locked away. At banquets, guests of high status sat above the salt, close to the host. Lower-ranking guests, they were seated below the salt. The very layout of dining tables reflected salt's social significance. Cities like Salzburg in Austria, literally meaning salt fortress, grew rich from salt mining in the Alps. The mines were so lucrative, they still operate today. Salt became a foundation of wealth, of politics, even of religion. This wasn't just about flavor, it was about power. But salt's story doesn't end with trade and wealth. It also became a symbol of rebellion. In 1930, Mahatma Gandhi led a non-violent protest that would become iconic, the Salt March. The British had imposed harsh taxes on salt in India, making it illegal for Indians to collect their own. Gandhi walked 240 miles to the Arabian Sea, bent down, picked up a handful of salt, and ignited a national movement. It was a quiet gesture with thunderous impact. One man, one handful of salt. A global empire shaken. Salt wasn't just an ingredient. It became an act of defiance. Which ingredient do you think has a surprising history? Cinnamon? Pepper? Ice? Drop your guesses in the comments. And let us know what ancient flavor you'd love us to explore next. And if this episode added a pinch of curiosity to your day, give it a like. It's a small action that helps us season the world with more stories. Today, we take salt for granted. It's in our kitchens, on our tables, and in every processed snack we grab. But it wasn't always this way. Salt had to fight for its place. It had to preserve armies, move mountains, and power revolutions. It salted roads. It filled treasuries. It inspired revolts. It fed civilizations. And in doing so, it preserved something even more important, our history. So the next time you reach for that salt shaker, pause. And remember, you're holding a tiny, powerful crystal that once changed the course of the world. Thanks for watching, channel name. For more stories where flavor meets history, hit subscribe and tap that bell icon. Until next time, stay curious, stay seasoned, and never underestimate the power of the simple things.